Hello, one and all, and welcome back to the Hidden Realms YouTube channel. I am your local GM, Joshua MacGregor, and I am here to talk about the Mockeries, episodes 22 through 30, as well as do like a campaign wrap-up and talk about all these behind-the-scene things that happened during those episodes. So, spoilers for the Mockeries and possibly the Reserve List as well, if you have not seen those yet. Now let's get to it. We've got a gimmick on the show, and that is to roll a d20. So let's go ahead and see what we're going to get. That is a 5. So I hope you're a druid or a cleric, because that is bad. You're not getting any insightful insight today. Um, um, Okay, let's get into it. Episodes 22 through 26 are the Anathema War storyline. Those are sort of a really big climactic battle, even within the Mockeries game. And we got a couple of guests on, which was really, really exciting. We got Antonio Cazar playing Rhydon Athronus, which is the character he was playing in the God Heist campaign. Really, really excited to have him on. Playing at a much lower level because things are not always balanced in this world, and it's interesting to explore that. And a character from a previous campaign set in the world of Sagalia that never made it onto camera, Awen Godslayer, who was played by Alberta Saunders, who plays characters in the Reserve List and in the Magnificent Heist, and will be playing things in the future. All kinds of good stuff. So, that is a battle in 3 parts, and the fun thing was to like play that 3-act structure and see how that unfolded. In the first act, seeing the heroes like on the walls and starting to fight against Matshesha and Zhen, 2 incredibly high CR enemies, which I did not hold back on taking from monster stat blocks and homebrewing things for myself. Obviously, the Anathema stat block was souped up to all hell in in the case of Matshesha. I believe I used the stat block of Matalok or Yongu, or I mixed up a couple of stat blocks of those like big demons from Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus, and or I believe it's Volo's Guide to Monsters or Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. Please don't at me. I don't remember which one I got them out of. In any case, the thing was, they had the tools to deal with Jen. They had the scythe, the Moonlight Scythe, which has the ability to deal with lycanthropy. The thing was, I made the thing so strong because I was like, I might be able to get some things done with him before he goes down. As Match's just meant to be the main fight, so he's meant to be the first one that they got rid of. But he went down in one hit, and he went down without being able to do anything because of portent rolls and all of this really and bad rolls on my part and all this really cool stuff. That was it was a really great moment, and it was a really beautiful moment for Cloud to be able to let this man go and show mercy, which was an interesting, really, really wonderful character choice from Lily. And for Awen's character, this is not some this is about truly behind the scenes stuff. Awen was involved with something with a disaster at this something called the Hecht Lyle pits in the neighboring country of Dridia in the campaign that we ran, and she faced a previous champion of Malar 220 years ago called Zhao Dan, and things went very badly. Things went much worse in that situation, and so there was almost a repeat of the same situation with different protagonists and antagonists, and Cloud being able to cure and set free Zhen was a parallel to Awen being unable to do that for Zhen, and for everything ending very, very catastrophically. So that was very beautiful, just on a personal level for me and Alberta, being able to, especially for Alberta, because it was her in the middle of that situation. Um, but being able to see those parallels was really really lovely. Uh, of course, things did not continue to go well in the second. Uh, in the second, I'm blanking on words. In the second episode of the Anathema War, Matshesha pulls out her big guns, and she is a near godly being. She's got a regeneration up the wazoo. She's got the ability to uh, take away spell slots, which I wanted to talk about actually because it did something very interesting. I invented this sort of mechanic for Matshesha that for every d10 she rolled for damage, that level of spell slot or lower would be, or the highest level available would be taken from the people, and everybody was a spellcaster in and amongst the people who were fighting. I mean, even Rhydon is a paladin. He used all of his stuff on smites in the first episode, which was awesome. But what happened with Matshesha was the way that I'd built her stat block, she had resistance to all forms of damage except for the classics, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing. Now, with the exception of perhaps Theremin, both Thesia and Cloud, as well as Alwyn and Rhydon, had the ability to deal those forms of damage. But what happened was because those spell slots were being taken from them, they were incentivized to use the spell slots that they had left while they still had them, which was all elemental damage, which he was resistant to. So I like inadvertently created like a really like psychologically savvy villain, which was super interesting and a lot of fun to sort of observe, but also wasn't what I was going for. So that's just a little homebrewing experience out there for anybody who's interested in that. And then so the second episode like had a heavy feeling. It had a very much a like this is not going well kind of vibe, and she was using those legendary reactions, which is something I made up, as opposed to legendary actions, because she was already doing so much damage on her turns. I figured having a few things that you could prevent one time would be quite fun, and one of those being the first activation of a domain that we are specifically seeing called as such in the story, because of course there are other domains which have happened in this world before, but this is the first one where we're seeing that as a thing. This one of being a very large one which prevents teleportation in and out. So that all of that was really really good, and left the players feeling quite desperate. And then in the third episode, them coming so close to death, but being able to decapitate Matshesha and bring an end to the war was very very satisfying, and they did an amazing job as always. Like, and Thesia having her moment. That's right. Thesia had her moment where she made a deal with the devil, with Asmodeus, and it is a particular thing with me. I like playing tempters. I like playing people who sound incredibly good and helpful and on side and willing to help, but are incentivizing actions which have serious, terrifying, horrible consequences. And Thesia channeling that magic and making it seem as though Peter Legazi was the one who perpetrated the atrocity of killing all below CR2 creatures was insane. It was insane. And it was a fantastic bit of roleplay from Daisy as well. I want to shout out everybody that we have on our show. I want to shout out everybody who appears in the Mockeries. Antonio Cazar, Alberta Saunders, and Lily Daisy Grindrod, Callum Cox. Everybody's truly amazing, and it is an incredible honor to be able to play with, hang out with, tell stories with these people. we're not even at the end of the video, and I felt the overwhelming desire to say that. Um, Post-war, we see sort of the fallout, the consequences of what happened. Um, we get a real peek in these few episodes that Owen is around into her life and her story, and there's a lot of history there, and there's a lot of context to be had for her, which has not ever been captured on screen before. Uh, Fingers crossed we can get some of that to you at some point. But uh, it was very fun for me to see her with her depth of knowledge of the world trying to like bring the Mockeries into a wider context of what is happening, which is fascinating because they've been on such a linear path and being so overwhelmed with their linear path, with their particular villains that they are facing and the direction that they are heading, their trajectory, and all in who have such a wide view of the world and the events that are happening, being like, also there are changelings, also there's this, also there's this, and then being like, we can't deal with all of this, we can't. Um, that was very, very fun. And having that little like tired conversation at the end felt very appropriate, which we were all kind of sleepy in real life, but we had the time to do it, and they all having finished the fight, it felt like a fun parallel. Um, so that was good. We are moving on to episode 27, a worse kind of evil. So this is the episode, I believe, where I pull out my final stops. Because Machesha is dealt with, which means the only people we have to deal with left are Breniel and Asmodeus. And the Asmodeus reveal was important to me, and it was important to get it right, and it was important to build up to it properly. Because listen, I kind of I feel as though I cheat a little bit in my games. I I like the players to feel very powerful, and I like to have the players feel as though they can conquer the evils of the world. Not that those encounters won't be deadly, not that they won't be challenging, but that they have the power to deal with these things, and they will succeed. They will win. At the same time, I am very insidious in the enemies and what they are doing and what they are up to. And Asmodeus needed, because of his reputation, because of his place in the D&D world and the D&D lore, but also his reputation in world and his parallels to Lucifer, the trickster himself, the silver-tongued devil, to I wanted that reveal to have an impact. And I had set up in the Anathema War this contract, which would force Thesia into this situation, which was really, really difficult to get out of. And I couldn't think of, like, it wasn't up to me to think of a way out of it. It was up to them. And they came up with such interesting ideas. Um, I, and I was worried with the Asmodeus reveal because taking that amount of agency from a player after you've had it be so liberal and after having people be so in control of what they can have as response, to have somebody take that away, that was something just behind the scenes I wanted to say was not something I did lightly, and it was not something I did without consulting Daisy on it. I did not reveal exactly what was going to happen beforehand, but I checked in with her and said, do you mind if I do a thing? And it might be, it might take some agency away from your character and uh, be a potential trigger for somebody. She said, no, I'm fine with that. And then afterwards, we had a second check in to make sure that it was all good. And so I just wanted to say that, not to reveal personal conversations between myself and Daisy, but for DMs and players out there, that these check-ins are important, I think, if you are ever going to even slightly take the reins away from your players. You never roll for your players. You never you never I think impose what you believe that character should be doing, because that player character is theirs. That's their contribution to the story and to the world. But but I uh but this felt like a very very evil thing to do. It felt in line with what Asmodeus was trying to do, and so it was something that we really wanted to check in on. And everybody should check in if that's something that you want to do as a DM. And players, if this happens to you, please check in. And you're not happy about it, then that's something you should check in with your DM about. Okay, moving right along to episode 28, Shopping for Goose. This was another shopping episode, which I am now on record as saying that not quite my thing, but that is okay. That really is okay, and they did a lot of fun stuff with it. Shopping for Goose obviously is this referring to the potion of Goose, which I believe the thing with that was that it was a hidden item in the one shot that Lily ran for the rest of us. It's on the channel, actually. It's the Flagged March Detective Agency one shot. You should go and check it out. It's fantastic. I get to play in it. It's super fun. And we never actually drank the potion of Goose in that game. So she asked me very excitedly if she could buy the potion of Goose in my world, in my game, and I was like, absolutely, we have to have a potion of Goose. Does that mean the potion of Goose will come back? Yeah, it does. It absolutely does mean that. Where and when it will happen, I have no earthly idea. But potion of Goose is going to happen. Yeah. Uh, and turned Theremin into a goose, which was very, very funny. I really liked that. As well as trying to figure out how to deal with this Asmodeus problem, and the mask which could debilitate her while skirting around some of the restrictions Asmodeus had put on her was really fascinating. It was very clever and very innovative, and that's really the thing, is that I'm only one person with one brain, and I have to think about so many things in the world, and taking into account all of these arcs and directions and institutions and characters and things, whereas the player characters really only have one person to think about, and them devoting their brain power to that really means that they overpower me in terms of processing ability. I'm not smart enough to keep up with my players, and I shouldn't be. They're fucking awesome, and a lot smarter than me a lot of the time. So that was very fun to just have that little reminder of like, oh yeah, oh yeah, they will take what I consider to be the hardest puzzle that I could make, like hardest like word vomit thing that Asmodeus could put on Thesia to make it impossible for her to break out of his control, and there's me being all smug and happy that I made like I did a really good job with Asmodeus, and I did a really good reveal, and now she's under his control and there's nothing she can do about it. And then she comes along and is like, well, I've got ideas. I'm like, ah, fuck. uh yeah, I get whomped, and it's great. It's absolutely fantastic. Episode 29 was called Breaking the Chains. So this is the episode where they finally go and confront Brenniel, and the ritual sort of happens. The ritual is something that was referred back to a long time ago, and it was really interesting. That Brenniel, because of the Asmodeus thing, Brenniel was seen less as a straight up antagonist in this situation, and that's something I played. I played a assumption of alliance with him, playing that knowing that my players had been talking about killing him for a very very long time, and I got a response which was very much like, okay, we're letting Brenniel do his ritual, and we're fighting Theseus / Asmodeus. Um, I was not expecting or guaranteed, like, expecting is the wrong word because you never expect anything if you're smart. You never expect any reaction. Um, I was not trying to pressure the players into doing that. I was very prepared for Asmodeus to be one of the enemies and controlling Thesia, and for Brennial to be the second, and for them to fight the two of them simultaneously, or then go like one after the other. And Brennial has a stat block, and he's got spells, and he's got all this stuff, and he's all planned out for the point when they want to fight him. Um, that's not the way it works out, and that was, as always, player choices are fascinating to me, and they made some really interesting ones this time around. Really, really interesting. Um, but the focus of this episode, right, was the PvP, and it was the surprise PvP, and this was again something that we checked in about after I sprung that on them, and the dice. Uh, the Mockeries have the best luck with dice I have ever seen, ever, in any party. Uh, and the fact that it swung the other way when they needed to, that they did minimum damage on damage dice rolls, when that they missed, that they were able to cleave through those legendary resistance things that she had. Brutal, absolutely brutal. And it's always worth like thinking back. It's like I there are, my brain can't help but think of better ways to have implemented that. Um, and can't help but think of like of like technical mechanical improvements, and also like ways that I could have conspired better with Daisy about making that happen to be really, really cool. But I think what we got was fantastic, and I think what they got was a straight win and getting their friend free relatively quickly in the over the course of a single session, which I feel was right. It would have been a lot to ask Daisy not to be in control, or to be in control, but having to fight her friends for more than one session. So that was great that they managed that. Um, and then of course we've got the finale, and there's a lot of big stuff that happens in the finale. A lot of description from me because I'm trying to get to the end of the story, and that is one thing that I've said repeatedly. I'll say again, uh, that I find myself, I feel as though I'm rushing the players, and I feel as though I may be railroading, and I don't like that feeling, and I wish that I was better at taking things slowly, like the Matt Mercer way of doing things. But the problem is, we're also making a show for people to enjoy, and that's not the kind of show that I enjoy watching. I enjoy watching a show where people do things, and where the plot progresses quickly and the stakes remain high. And I was cognizant of doing that for the channel, and so that is something which is an ongoing thing for me to try to figure out what the balance there is. Um, it was one of, it, the players made fantastic choices. I just feel that it could have been more in their hands. For me, for that's my personal reflection, my personal insight into my own playing. Uh, the choice of Thesia to allow the Numina and Hamir to change her, the choice of Cloud to give the scythe to Bradiel. We get that lovely goodbye moment, which she knew was coming, and oh, she broke my heart with her reaction. Um, yeah, yeah, absolutely, and them getting a little bit of a happy ever after, not happy ever after, but a happy ending to their story before the Battle of the Bands, before the Droskin Keep one shot, which does have to happen at some point. We still haven't managed to organize that yet, but we will. It'll be good. It'll be good fun. Okay, closing thoughts on the Mockeries game. This was so much fun and such a joy, and I think that 3 players is actually my preferred number of players at the table. I actually do. Um, You get enough time to devote to each person's personal arc. Uh, there are enough players to have like fun banter and relationships between them, and for drama to occur. Uh, Whereas with larger parties, I feel like it slows it down immeasurably and it bogs down combat, etc. To have so many people. And we found that with the Anathema War, adding those two players, while it was fantastic and great to have them on, really slowed combat down. Well, and the whole war thing slowed it down as well. That was crazy. Uh, and I definitely could have run that. In any case, I wanted to thank you. I wanted to thank you all out there who watched this show and enjoyed it and um, experienced that journey with the players and with myself. It means a huge amount. And if you had fun, then that's amazing. We had a lot of fun hanging out with each other and doing this story. And hopefully we will do more in the future. So, with all of that said, that's a 5 insight roll. Next week we are going to have the Battle of the Bands come out, and it actually will this time. I have the time to do the editing today. I actually do, so that will be good. So we'll see you all then. Ta ta for now, and look forward to different kinds of stuff in the future. Bye.